Hi, everybody. It's story time. So, story for this week is going to be Snow White. Sure, it's all crazy. So, the story is Snow White. So, once upon a time, there was a princess who lived in a castle, and her hair was as black as coal, and her lips were as red as cherries, and her skin was as white as snow. And so, everyone called her Snow White. And while she was a very pretty, very nice princess, and everyone loved her, her mother, the queen, was very mean and was a witch. And everybody was afraid of her. She had made herself a magic mirror, and she could take this magic mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And a face would appear in the mirror, and the face would say, "Truth to tell, my queen, yours is the most beautiful face I've ever seen." And the queen would say, "Yes, I know." Well, as Snow White got older and older, she became more and more beautiful. And the queen started to get very worried that one day Snow White would be more beautiful than her. So she would make Snow White do all of the work in the castle. She would scrub the floors and wash the dishes and clean and all cook. But even with all of this, as much as Snow White was tired all the time and had worked from the moment she got up in the morning to the moment she went to bed at night, she was always sweet and cheerful. And everyone just loved her. Well, one day, the wicked queen went to her magic mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror didn't say anything. The queen got very mad and said, "What's wrong with you, mirror? If you don't speak, I'll smash you to the floor." And the face appeared in the mirror and said, "Truth to tell, my queen, Snow White's is the most beautiful face I have ever seen." "What?" She pointed her finger, and a bolt of lightning shot out and made a hole in the ceiling. She said, "Bring me a woodsman." The woodsman came. She says, "I want you to take Snow White out in the woods and get rid of her." Well, the woodsman, he didn't want to hurt Snow White, but he was very afraid of the wicked queen. So he got Snow White, and they went out for a walk in the woods. But he just couldn't hurt Snow White, and so he told her, "That wicked queen, she wants to get rid of you. Just go, run as fast as you can. I'll tell her you're gone, but go, go, go." And Snow White ran and ran and ran and ran and ran until she just fell on the ground. She couldn't go anymore. Oh, what was she going to do? Instead of finally she felt something on her face, and she looked, and it was a deer. And the deer poked her and then ran away a little bit and then came back, poked her again, and ran away a little bit. And Snow White said, "Do you want me to follow you?" The deer ran off. So she followed the deer through the woods. It went around and over and down until finally the deer came to a little clearing in the woods. And there in the clearing was this funny little house. The door to go to the house was only about half of her height. This is a very strange little house. Is it a playhouse? She thought. She knocked on the door. "Hello, tink, tink, tink." And as she knocked, the door opened up, and she looked inside. It was very dirty. It was a long, low table with 7 little chairs, and there were 7 little beds, but there were dirty plates and dirty clothes, and the whole place was a mess. And Snow White, I said, "Hello? Hello?" She didn't see anybody. He goes, "Well, since I'm here and I'm used to cleaning, I might as well make myself useful." So she started to clean the house. And as she cleaned, she found that when she had to do work, if she sang, it made the work go much faster. So she started to sing, and her voice was so beautiful, all the little animals in the forest stuck their head in the door to see what was going on. And bunnies hopped in, and they would grab a sock, and they'd bring it over to her. "Oh, thank you." And a deer came in. He grabbed a little saucer and handed it to her. "Oh, thank you." The animals loved her so much. So in no time, she had all the dishes were washed and were drying. She had washed all of the clothes and hung them out in the sun, and all of the sheets and everything. She swept, she had mopped, and the whole place was sparklingly clean. Dusted. So Snow White, "Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I just lay down for just a few." She was so big, the beds were so small, she had to lay across 3 of them so that she could go to sleep. Well, about that time, the 7 dwarves who lived in the house were on their way home. They worked in a mine where they would dig out gems all day long. And on the way home, they would sing their little song. Hi ho, it's home from work we go. La 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 la, hi ho. Hey, wait a minute, said the first dwarf. Who left the door open? Someone left the door open. Did you leave the door open? I didn't leave the door open. Oh, someone. The first dwarf stuck his head in. We've been robbed. What do you mean we've been robbed? Look, everything's gone. And Doc, who was the wisest of all the dwarves, said, No, we have not been robbed. Look, everything's just clean. All the dishes are over there drying, and all the clothes are over here hanging out in the sun, and someone's mopped, and there's a giant lady sleeping in the bed. A giant lady? They all peeked over. Is that your aunt? I don't have an aunt, giant lady. Do you have nothing? And they were talking so much that Snow White woke up. Oh, who are you? And the dwarf said, Well, we're the 7 dwarves. We live here. Who are you? And Snow White told them her whole story. And the dwarves were so afraid for Snow White, and they loved her so much, said, Oh, well, you need to stay away from that wicked witch, and you can come stay here with us. We'll take care of you. Yes, you can stay as long as you like. And Snow White was so thankful, she made a huge, delicious dinner for all of the dwarves. And then that night, after they had their dinner, the dwarves all brought out instruments, and they played music, and Snow White sang, and it was a wonderful, wonderful evening. Well, the next day, the Wicked Witch got up, and she got her mirror, and she looked into it and said, Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And the face slowly appeared in the mirror and said, Truth to tell, my queen, Snow White is still the most beautiful face I've ever seen. What? I thought I got rid of her. She went to her magic cauldron, and she waved her hand over it, and the water started to spin and spin and spin. And she said, Show me where Snow White is. And as the water stopped spinning, a picture appeared in the top of the water, and it was of the 7 dwarves' cottage. I know just where that is. Now I'll need a disguise. Poof! And she snapped her fingers, and suddenly she looked like an old, old lady. And I'll also need this. She snapped her fingers, and there appeared a beautiful red apple that was poisoned. Yes, this will do the trick. Now. And she vanished. Well, about the same time that the Wicked Witch was looking in the mirror, the 7 dwarves were getting ready to go to work. And they said, All right, we've got to go to the mine. So remember, that Wicked Witch is going to try and get you. So don't answer the door, whatever you do. And if you meet anybody, don't take anything from a stranger. Oh, I'll remember. She's not going to remember. And off they went. Hi ho, it's off to work we go. Well, the dwarves had just gotten out of sight when suddenly, poof, the Wicked Witch appeared. Well, even though her magic made her look like an old lady, the animals could still tell that it was the Wicked Witch, and they ran as fast as they could to get the dwarves. But in the meantime, I wonder who that is. Snow White completely forgot to not answer the door. So she opened the door, and there was the Wicked Witch, looked like an old lady. Oh, my. Hello, I'm just a kindly old lady, and I wondered if you might like this sweet, delicious apple. Oh, yes, I'm very hungry, thank you. Snow White forgot not to take anything. She took the apple, and she took a bite. Oh, my, and she fell down to the ground. Well, the animals had gotten the dwarves, and they got back, and they started to run to the house, and they got back to the clearing just as Snow White fell to the ground. And the first dwarf said, Hey, that old lady, she did something to Snow White. After her. So the Wicked Witch started to run, and the dwarves chased, and they went up a trail until the witch got to the very edge of a cliff, and she couldn't go anymore. She snapped her fingers and turned back into the Wicked Queen. So, you thought you'd chase me, eh? She pointed her finger, and a bolt of lightning shot out. Pew! Pew! And about the 3rd time she did it, she pointed at the ground in front of the dwarves, and a bolt of lightning hit the ground, but it broke the rock she was standing on, and the Wicked Queen and the rock went tumbling down the mountain, and the Wicked Witch was gone forever. So the dwarves ran back to the cottage and they grabbed Snow White. Snow White, Snow White, Snow White, Snow White, Snow White, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, Snow White, Snow White. Nothing would wake her up. They talked to her, they sang to her, nothing would work. So they made a beautiful bed for Snow White, and they made a little glass case around it, and they would bring it out every day, put wheels on it so they could wheel it in and out, and they'd bring it out into the sunshine, and the animals could come up to it, and they would talk, and they'd sing, and they'd say, please, Snow White, wake up, wake up. Well, one day, a prince was going through the forest, and he heard all of this commotion, and he came into the clearing and said, what in the world is going on here? So they dwarves told him the story of Snow White and what had happened. And he says, oh my, he says, do you mind if I look at her? They shut the glass case off, and the prince looked at Snow White and said, oh, she's very beautiful. And he tipped her head back and said, well, wait, what's this? And he reached into her mouth, and he took the bite of the apple out of her mouth. She had bitten it, but she hadn't swallowed it yet before she fell on the ground. Well, as soon as the poison piece of apple was out of her mouth, Snow White blinked her eyes and said, well, what a strange dream I've had. And she woke up, and all the dwarves went, hooray, hooray, Snow White. And the dwarves told Snow White what had happened with the Wicked Witch and the Wicked Queen. And the prince said, well, I guess that means you're the queen now. And so Snow White said, well, can I get a ride back to the castle? So Snow White went back to the castle, and sure enough, she was made the queen, and she ruled for a long time. Everybody loved her. She even moved the 7 dwarves into the castle, and they lived, everyone, well, except the Wicked Queen, everyone lived happily ever after. And that's the story of Snow White. All right, well, I guess I'll see you later on. Okay.